it over to you.
Excellent. Well, Carol, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to a great time here to talk a little bit about our experiences in the science and in business. And I wanted to start off first by just introducing the panel. I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Emilio Cordova. I am an alum, class of 1990, graduated with a major in chemistry and a minor in Spanish at Drew. Also, my current position, I am currently the Chief Executive Officer of a contract research lab called Sandy Tech, based out of Chicago. And I currently actually live in Austin, Texas. So we'll talk a little bit about diversity and also location diversity as well, and what you can do with a science degree and a business degree, or business interests and the like. My career path really was just a little bit different than I think a lot of people would envision having someone graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemistry. I had great mentoring while I was at Drew. My advisor, Dr. Alan Roseanne, which many students, if they're on, may have taken a course even today with Dr. Roseanne. He was very instrumental in guiding me and giving me advice about where to go next. Because as many of us may have experienced in their journey, whether at Drew or any other institution, sometimes the thought that you go into a degree doesn't necessarily mean you come out with the same idea. I actually was a pre-med major coming into Drew University a long time ago, and really found out quickly that chemistry was my niche versus biology. And so it was a great path because obviously I could still take chemistry and biology at the same time as far as requisites. And then as I moved forward, as I got closer to the end and was ready to graduate, I still had doubts. I didn't know where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And so I was fortunate enough to extend my education further and wound up with a PhD in chemistry at the University of Miami in Florida. And then subsequently did a postdoc fellow at Harvard University for a little bit, and then wound up jumping straight into industry. But not as you would think. I was not in the lab. I was not in a pharmaceutical company. Actually went into the business side, even just taking science courses. And so I was involved in actually the sales aspect of chemistry, selling instrumentation and contract services to the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. Over that period of time of learning the business almost by force, got some advanced education through a master's in business administration at Purdue University, and kind of rounded my, I would say, my educational journey as I went forth and was looking for more executive experience. And so that led me to join several biotech or actually contract research startups. And obviously the one I'm currently at is a contract research lab that's been around for about 10 years using unique technology, focused on cancer research. And even today, we're actually focused on COVID-19, which is really quite exciting for us in the lab. And so I wanted to kind of get also a little bit of a background from each of our panelists. Can we start with Brittany Barreto?
Hey, hi. So I am Drew, class of 2013. I majored in biology. I was in the Honors College, the first graduating class of the Honors College at Drew. And we were the guinea pigs. I'm sure the program is flawless now and is smooth and all figured out, but I had a great time in the Honors College. So I majored in biology and I double minored in public health and French. I worked under, my academic advisor was Dr. Roger Knowles. So he's the one who introduced me to laboratory sciences. I also worked with Dr. Bimal Das Mahapatra. I call him Dr. Das in the RISE floor. I love RISE so much. If you ever need someone to tell you the favorite program of Drew for me as a scientist was RISE. So actually, when I went to Drew, I thought I wanted to be a genetic counselor because I love genetics, but I also love humans, and I thought I wanted to work one-on-one with people. And I did a shadowing where one day I followed a genetic counselor around at Morristown Hospital, and I realized that the entire day the genetic counselor spent it telling parents that their kids were going to be really sick. And I knew that I was a really sensitive lady, and I could not have a career where I just told moms that their babies were sick. I couldn't do it. And I went back to Dr. Knowles and said, oh my gosh, my dream job is actually a horror movie. I don't want to do it. What am I going to do? And he offered me an internship in his laboratory that summer, analyzing small molecules for Alzheimer's research. And that's really where I got into the lab. So I graduated from Drew, and I went into a PhD program at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, studying a PhD in molecular human genetics. And so I pursued that doctorate. But when I was in my doctoral program, I realized I had too much personality to be in a sterile lab my whole life. And I love science, but how could I also be kind of more salesy person? And I looked for an internship at a biotech company, and Houston doesn't have a lot of biotech companies like New Jersey does, but Houston has a really big startup scene. And so I got involved in the biotech and medical device startup scene in Houston, and I found my tribe. And so while finishing my PhD, I started my first company called Faramore. Faramore turned into the first nationwide DNA-based dating app. So we matched singles based on a DNA test that we sold through the dating app, analyzed genes that were shown through years of research to predict attraction, and then we matched local singles based on this instant chemistry. And so that was a really, really fun experience. I did that for about 3 years, and then now I work at a venture capital firm. And so what that means is that I look for startups, I analyze their deal, so their business model, their go-to-market strategy, their product, their IP, and then I make an assessment on whether or not our fund should invest in that startup. Most people in this industry have MBAs, and I've never taken a business class in my life, but I like to say that scientists are just really good problem solvers, and most of startups is just, it's pilot testing, trying different things in the market, and it's analyzing data and then putting your ego aside and making business decisions based on data. And I think scientists are really good at it. And so I actually think more PhDs should become entrepreneurs. That's the short end of my story.
Brittany, thanks. That's great. Quick question. Where were you from when you went to Drew? Were you a New Jersey girl?
I'm a Jersey girl. Yeah, I'm from Sussex County. And so the first 2 years of Drew, I lived on campus, and then my mom moved to Rockaway, which is like 30, 45 minutes away. So I commuted the next 2 years. Now I still live in Houston now.
Excellent. Well, I was just curious because, as we engage, one of the beautiful things about Drew is, the ability to really extend out of that community. And, we have a lot of alum all over, not only the US, but worldwide as well. And so I wanted with that to introduce you to Leo Kotlyar, who has a great story to tell about his journey at Drew.
Hi, thank you, Emilio, for the warm introduction. My journey in Drew started in 2005. I'm sorry, it ended in 2005. It started in 2001. I'm a class of 2005 from the College of Liberal Arts. I went to high school in Westchester, New York, and I remember the disappointment I felt when I got my advanced decision rejection from NYU Stern School of Business. And I went into my guidance counselor's office and I said, what am I going to do? All my friends are going to NYU. I just got rejected. Where's another business school? And she said, well, I don't know about business school, but I know you, and I know you like small classes and debates. And I know this school in New Jersey that has a program called the Wall Street Semester, which is renowned for placing people on Wall Street while still giving them a well-rounded liberal arts education. So I took her advice and went to visit and fell in love with the campus, and the rest was history. I didn't really need to see much more than taking a brief walk through the campus. So I went to Drew. I knew I wanted to be part of the Wall Street Semester, but I didn't really have a clue as to what I wanted to major in and what I wanted to really study. So long story short, I decided to double major in economics and Russian studies. Economics because it felt like something broad enough where I could get into the Wall Street Semester, which was really interesting for me at the time. And at the same time, take a lot of classes that are broad and very specific, like econometrics and calculus. I'm not sure if she's still there, but Professor Sarah Abramovitz, I had probably 5 or 6 classes with her over the course of 4 years, and she wrote the book on econometrics. And to this day, I quote things that she's taught, and I'm very fond of that very in-depth knowledge in mathematics. And at the same time, I took Russian studies because it's part of my culture that I didn't really know much about. And my advisor was Professor Carol Euland, who retired a few years ago. And I got to read some incredible books in my native language that I would never take the time to actually read if not forced to do it, and gave me the power of understanding humanity and the souls involved in making these complex mathematical decisions. And before graduating, and this was a turning point where I kind of knew I majored in the wrong subject. I had to fulfill a science breadth requirement, and I took an incredible class with Professor Fenstermacher in physics, who's no longer at Drew, but was a living legend at the time when I was there. And he really kind of showed that physics is everywhere and everything can be described by a formula and everything can be related back to those very same mathematical concepts that Sarah Abramovitz taught. So having this degree in economics and Russian studies and a little bit of regret for not being a physics major, I decided to pursue business nonetheless. Having taken the Wall Street Semester my sophomore year, I was sitting in class at my money and banking class my senior year, and right before class ended, the professor mentioned, hey, we got an internship opportunity for Morgan Stanley. The only prerequisite is it needs to be someone who's been part of the Wall Street Semester. And I stopped by after class. It turned out to be an internship opportunity for Morgan Stanley. And my senior year, I got the position and was able to do the internship from November of my senior year up till graduation in May, in prime brokerage at Morgan Stanley. And upon graduation, received a full-time offer to join their derivatives documentation team. And this was, in one way, very far away from the concepts of mathematics and physics that I was really interested in, but very close to the nature of a liberal arts education where everything was negotiable and everything was debatable. I was negotiating contracts that governed trading relationship between Morgan Stanley and its institutional counterparts. That opportunity allowed me to raise my hand and go to Budapest for 3 months and run an offshore risk management support team for 3 months. And while there, I thoroughly realized that documentation and legal was not really my calling, but because I've made so many good relationships on the derivative sales and trading desks, negotiating these contracts and agreements, I was offered an opportunity to join the sales trading desk, covering pension plans, endowments, asset managers, and sovereign wealth funds. So after my 3-month assignment in Budapest was over, I returned back to New York, a victorious leader, and joined the derivative sales trading team, where I spent 7 years, eventually running the futures sales and trading team on the equity side. I then was offered a similar opportunity to go to Merrill Lynch, which is now part of Bank of America, and spent another 3.5 years covering pension plans, endowments, asset managers, and sovereign wealth funds there, also being responsible for generating a lot of content for our institutional account base. And I think the biggest takeaway that I had through this path, through the Wall Street semester and Drew, and eventually to the bulge bracket financial institutions, is that there's this search for truth. And you could spend your career, selling whatever products are profitable, or you could spend your time understanding your client needs and understanding what the truth of the matter is to get them to the most efficient way to solve them. And I think Drew was incredible at allowing me this opportunity to debate and write essays on things that normally you wouldn't write essays on, like mathematics and physics. So it gets you to think harder and deeper on subjects to allow for that quest for truth. And ultimately, I found that to be highly rewarding, especially for my pension plan clients who have long-term liabilities and things that take a little extra care. There's a headline risk that they can never take. So finding a good investment and making sure it stands the test of time became of paramount importance. So as that was happening throughout the course of my 11 years on Wall Street, I became very kind of passionate about this concept of long-term value and sustainability. And in big banks, you may have idealism, but that idealism has to be met with a fair amount of politics, and things that you may want to accomplish may not be accomplishable in the terms that you want. So I decided to leave and pursue this concept on a full-time basis, starting my own consulting company, focusing on strategy and sustainability consulting, where the point is not to look at sustainability as this marketing, greenwashing buzzword that's so prevalent now, but really dig into the truth of what sustainability means and understand that there is no limit to defining sustainability. There are only concentric circles of truth. And the wider you go in these concentric circles, the harder it is to accomplish sustainability on a business level. But nonetheless, it's an option that I give to all my clients, that we could go as far as they want. If they want to be carbon neutral, we could do that. If they want to be carbon negative, we could probably do that. But it takes more effort, more digging, more truth seeking, and eventually it offers a client granularity of choice. And again, I think these concepts were planted in me through this liberal arts education of Drew, of sitting in those small classrooms and debating my professors and my fellow students and having a voice to dig deeper and to uncover this truth. And I think that's where I am now. I don't believe I'm finished. I don't believe this is the perfect job or the perfect career move, but every move has been better than the last. And this truth seeking, I tend to embody in my personal life as well. So I'm very much looking forward as to what will be the next step in this truth seeking mission. And I believe there's no such thing as a perfect place. It's only a journey, and each step should be more interesting than the last.
Excellent, Leo. Thank you so much for the summary. We really appreciate it. First of all, welcome everyone who has joined us with this panel discussion. I want to just plug in a little bit before we continue that all students who are either currently enrolled or even alum from Drew can connect with other alum through the Drew Connect portal. If you're not aware of this, this is a portal that Drew University offers to current students and alum that allow us to interface with alumni. Students can contact us, ask questions, whether we can connect through common majors or even questions related, in our case, through science and business and entrepreneurship. Please feel free to contact any of us at the panel, Brittany, Leo, myself. We're more than happy to engage with you on any topic that's relevant, whether it's what are you going to do after you graduate, Drew, or have you ever taken Dr. Pearsall for inorganic chemistry? You know, things like that. Obviously, we're also connected geographically. So if you're not from what we call the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania kind of area, but maybe you're in the South, such as Brittany, where she's in Houston, or myself, or even if you're international, Leo's in Amsterdam. And so, you know, we have alum all over the world who could definitely help and be able to connect with you, and would love to share our experience and help you in your journey at Drew and after Drew. So that said, you know, we'd like to really break up a little bit into some questions. You know, one of the things that I was looking at as we were putting this panel together is something that Leo said, and that is that our path in education is really a journey. There's no set point from A to B. In fact, probably if you ask anyone, whether it's your parents, your friends, alum here at Drew, even your professors, I think almost everyone can say that when they started initially, what they were going to think about, what they were going to do, and where they are today, it was really not a straight line. It was this, you know, crossroads, redirection, U-turns, detours to get to where you need to go. One of the beautiful things about Drew University and the liberal arts education that Drew offers is that diversity, that ability to take courses in your core studies, whether it's a science like chemistry or biology or physics or mathematics or computational science, or if it's business, if it's macroeconomics, if it's you know, business management, if it is a foreign language, and also be able to take courses outside of that comfort zone so that you can envision what else is out there. And more importantly, you'll wind up seeing a lot of times that some of these courses that you take at Drew actually have some correlation to your major / minor. So I encourage everyone to step outside that box, outside that comfort zone, and take some courses that Drew offers, which are really exciting. One of the things that I would like to ask to the panel is, what do you think is helpful when you're pursuing a degree at Drew that is not just coursework? For example, I think, Leo, you led to saying that you actually took a semester that was outside of Drew, and how that experience was. Brittany, you were involved with RISE, again, another great topic, a great program at Drew. What advice can you give our folks here, our student body, as far as experiences outside of Drew, but within Drew?
Definitely, I can jump in. I mean, this is advice that I give people that I mentor today, scientists that are interested in entrepreneurship. I tell them, hey, listen, I know you're really tired at the end of a day of doing experiments in lab. The Drew equivalent would be, I know you're really tired at the end of a day full of courses, but going out and doing those extracurricular things is what is really going to make you ahead of the curve, different from other people. even if you show up and just show your face and don't even contribute. So, you know, the advice I give today is, you know, it's a scientist who says, but I have nothing to say at a business networking event. I'm like, just show your face. It'll just, by osmosis, just start to come in, and you'll start to make friends, and one day you'll be leading these meetups, right? And so as a Drew student, I would say, you know, I was actually part of Asia Treehouse. I don't know if that's still a thing, if y'all still have theme houses, but I was part of Asia Treehouse. I have no Asian studies in my background. I don't think in my future, in my present, like there's nothing about my life that would say that I should live in a theme house that we talk about Asia. But I did that, and it was incredible because it really broadened my mind and to the world. I think that we only had one Asian person actually living there. We were a super diverse house, and I actually picked up a lot from other students that were majoring in other things, and it was an environment where they were able to show me my own biases or you know, paradigms of what I thought was normal. I'll never forget, can remember one day I said, you know, I can't understand how Mandarin works. Like, it's just scribbles on a paper, you know? And one of the other students, or, you know, my friends in the house, looked at me and they said, yeah, English language is scribbles on a paper too. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, and I know, like, I look back and I'm like, oh, I'm like almost ashamed of myself. But those were those little tidbits that allowed Drew to create someone who was, as we like to say now, woke. Right? So I wasn't just leaving with a major in biology. It was also a little bit more woke to what the world was about. And, you know, I said, I'm from Sussex County, New Jersey. If you know it, it's really rural. And so I wasn't used to such a diverse group of people and diverse groups of thoughts and religions and cultures. And so definitely outside coursework engagement was absolutely like fundamental to my education at large, even when it was not having to do with science at all.
Excellent. I want to give you a little bit of experience on my end. One of the things that people may not know about me is that I'm a first generation college student, right? I was the first person in my family, not just to graduate high school, but actually go to college. And with that came a whole lot of kind of internal responsibilities about how I was going to fulfill this journey of getting a college degree. And one of the things that I thought was really just unique was something that Brittany touched upon, was this diversity, this ability to be at Drew and be surrounded by a diverse body of faculty and students who you could learn from all aspects. I brought my own personal experience being a first generation Latino or Latinx now person at Drew. But I also was able to engage in all sorts of different clubs and activities within Drew, whether it was BSO, which used to be formerly Hiera back in my day. I also stayed at a house a semester, a whole year, called the International House. And that was fun. We had people from all over the place: Russia, Argentina, India, Jersey. It was a lot of fun. We really had a great time. But I think also was also the extension of being able to use those tools in what I do today. So one of the things that people may not realize, for example, as a science major, is the ability to hone in on a language. And I think that's really critical. I was very fortunate that I took a Spanish minor, and my background, obviously, as a Latino, gave me a little bit of advantage in trying to maximize my language skills. But to this day, I still use that quite heavily in my own business. Whether it's engaging clients or others in terms of not just the language, but the science and the business behind what we do. And I think that's really important, that as you have your journey at Drew, again, get out of that comfort zone and try to do different things as we go along. one of the things with regards to Drew Connect, just as you may or may not know, there are groups available within that talks about, there's a chemistry group, alumni group, if you wish to join. There's a Texas group. So if you're from Texas, you can join up and we can chat. And all sorts of different types of groups that you can join through the Drew Connect program. So Leo, I wanted to ask you something really interesting, because I know you graduated in 2005. And so one of the things that we went through as a nation was the 2008 recession. And boy, oh boy, today we're going through another uphill battle, right, with COVID-19 and how all that shakes up, not only from a science perspective, but also from a business perspective, right? And so wanted to get your kind of thoughts on how did you handle that that recession period in 2008, and maybe a little bit comparison to how things maybe either similar or different as what we're doing today.
Absolutely. That's a great question, because as someone who was on the Morgan Stanley equity trade floor for that whole time, it's a very vivid memory, and, you know, ironically enough, a very pleasant memory, because it was one of the first times professionally where I got to feel my full power, where I got to understand that clients rely on my decision-making, rely on my ability to remain calm amidst a terrifying storm that's engulfing everyone. And that was only about a year and a half into my tenure on the trade floor. So I was still very fresh, and it was a trial by fire in many ways. We had layoffs every 3 months, and people around me would be called to the back office and sent away, never to be seen again. We had a run on Morgan Stanley stock where it went from the mid-20s down to about $6, and the CEO had a call with the chairman of the Federal Reserve and told him a few unflattering words, and that he's going to hold the fort and Morgan Stanley's not going down. So we lived through one of these moments that if you're able to get through it, you're always wiser and better positioned for the next one. And I will never, ever regret being in this business at the wrong time, because so many of my classmates who went on to Wall Street always say, oh, we got into this 10 years too late. Oh, we missed out on the $500,000 bonuses that used to be just handed out to the average sales trader. But you also missed out on the learning opportunity to become an ultimate professional in the hardest of circumstances, to go to the playoffs and grow your playoff beard and battle for that Stanley Cup when everyone else is folded. And in a way, I went through it again right before I left Merrill Lynch, and that was the Brexit vote of July 2016, where in many ways it's not a recession, it's not nearly the same magnitude of an event, but a Western democratic country was about to make a decision that would impact all of the European Union and the global economy. And I remember staying up 24 hours trading for a couple of clients, not leaving the office. And when all is said and done, we realized that Britain would leave the European Union. And personally, I set a record in volatility trading that night and made a certain client $35 million in the process. So whenever these high magnitude events happen, there's always someone who also benefits. And we have to understand that this game is played on both the losing side and the winning side. And being able to learn from these events allows you to position time after time to eventually win, to eventually be on the right side of history. And there is a lot of similarities to what's happening now to what happened in 2008 and 2016. But I will say that to me, it looks like the magnitude of this event far exceeds that of 2008. We're looking at unemployment numbers that haven't been seen before since the Great depression. We're looking at industries that may not fully recover. The tourism industry, consumer discretionary, the music industry, the restaurant industry. We really don't know what the magnitude of COVID-19 will be, but we will know that there's plenty of lessons to be learned there. First of all, the market will likely continue to go down. So if you're ready to buy, it's a game of patience. The first wave of 2008 hit, and there is wave after wave after wave after wave. There was a default on Lehman Brothers. There's a default on a couple of other big hedge funds and asset managers, and it kept on going. And there was a couple of dead cat bounces where people thought the market was going to recover, but then the shorts got again laid out and it went lower and lower. So anyone looking at the markets now should be positioned for a couple of months, if not a couple of quarters of intense pain. But that doesn't mean there's no money to be made and there's no jobs to be had. I think more and more we're realizing now how capable we are of working remotely. So opportunities for sustainability, remote work, computer programming, computer languages, all that is going to be coming to the forefront. And where currencies are going to be volatile, I have a sneaking suspicion that cryptocurrency exchanges and cryptocurrency digital asset firms are going to do really well. So looking at traditional industries that are falling, giving rise to new industries that will inevitably take their place. And I think those are the biggest lessons, that it's not about this is over and things will never be the same. It's things will never be the same. Let's look at the new opportunities that are coming up. Let's look at the financials that are going to be benefiting in this new economy. Let's look at ways of doing business that's going to be rising. You know, we've heard for several years about this trend of digital nomads, as, you know, millennials or Gen Zers who are working from Bali on a laptop and doing work. Well, now everyone's a digital nomad, right? So I think this is a great opportunity to realize what is rising, what is falling, and to fully embrace it.
Thanks, Leo. I appreciate it. You know, one of the things that I find very exciting, I guess in a more retirement way, but is technology, right? Technology that we have today and how we're able to utilize it in this situation, right? It's quite unique. And one of the interesting things about what's happening today, it really encompasses what this panel is about. It talks about science, it talks about business, it talks about folks who are self-starters, entrepreneurs, et cetera. And one of the questions I wanted to toss out to Brittany was, Brittany, you know, just I can't say enough about how awesome it is to have you on this panel for many reasons. One is being an entrepreneur, being a woman entrepreneur, being a VC female partner. Those things are just absolutely fabulous and absolutely something that all Drew students should be dialing you up, asking for advice, because what you do in such a, not only a competitive landscape, but obviously, as we know, for many years been driven by a kind of this male dominance movement, and seeing, I mean, I see a lot of my fellow peers who are going in there and trying new things, whether in science, whether in business, and seeing someone like you with a science degree who went in and jumped headfirst into starting their own business when funding, first of all, not easy to get, but again, the people holding the purses are not necessarily looking at the business so much of the people. And so having you be able to do that, and now you turning around and actually doing that, is amazing. So my question to you is, you know, how do you get our student population, but more specifically our female population at Drew, excited about the prospects that are out there for them, not only in the science, but in business as well.
Yeah, I have a hat that I wear that says Feminist AF. So I'm kind of all over this. You know, I think that the struggles of female leaders in business, like venture capital, entrepreneurship, I see it, I saw it a lot in science too. And so for me, it wasn't like this dramatic change where I felt super equal and promoted in the science world. And then all of a sudden in business, I was like not respected as well. In fact, in science, you know, I did notice a difference between my female advisors and my male advisors and how they all interacted. My impression is that, you know, the old guard is retiring and there's a new guard coming in, and we need to show up and show them how women should be treated and respected and heard. I have a lot of faith in that it is happening. It's going to be a slow process, right? But it is happening. For example, my genetics PhD program, it's actually it's one of the best in the world. They only accept about 10 students per year from around the world to join this genetics PhD program. Of the 10 students accepted, 9 were women. And some may say, oh, well, that's crazy. Like that's, you know, whoa, that seems like it's biased, but it's like, no one would question that if it was 9 men and 1 woman, right? They would say like, oh, good, they have a woman. That's great. You know? And so that's how we felt about a man. We were like, good, there's a man in here. Good for you. Like, come with us. And so it is definitely changing. My attitude is very much Jersey attitude. You know, in Texas, they think I'm a very blunt lady with a lot of opinions. And so I think that New Jersey and Drew offers this kind of resilience attitude and this like push forward and this candidness. And so I think that that's really helped me in my career. At times it's, you know, backfired, but that's okay. You know, you live and you learn. But I think that being upfront and being, you know, not afraid to ask that question, not afraid to raise your hand, because, you know, for a long time I was always worried that, you know, my question was stupid or dumb. And, you know, time after time I would ask the question and 3 other people would say, thank you for asking. I was thinking the same thing, you know, and you just need to be that person to raise your hand. You know, I think that there's strategies around, you know, because the old guard is still here. And so what are the strategies, you know, if you're a student currently that you can pursue in order to rise up, regardless of any biases that may be there that aren't your fault. I like to tell this one story. When I was fundraising for Fairmore, I was still a full-time PhD student. That was a tough year. But when I would show up to these investors, like to give my pitch is like a presentation essentially. I would show up and they'd say, oh, are you here to set the pitch deck up for your CEO? When is he getting here? And I'd say, it's me. I'm the CEO. I am here. And so something I started doing, this is where the creativity comes in. I started wearing a lab coat that I bought off at Amazon, because you should never wear an actual lab coat with like chemicals on it out in public. So I bought a lab coat, 3/4 sleeve lab coat off at Amazon, and I wrote Brittany Barreto, founder of Fairmore on it. And I would show up to investor meetings wearing a lab coat. Any actual scientist would be like, why are you wearing a lab coat for a PowerPoint? That's so weird. But investors usually aren't scientists. And so I would show up in this white lab coat and they'd be like, oh, Dr. Barreto, welcome. Like, do you need anything? Would you like a coffee before? You know, I'd be like, yeah, I'm the CEO. I'm here to pitch and take your money, you know? And so, you know, it was a bias that I was never gonna really change in their mind. And showing up, being assumed to be the assistant, and then being angry about it or leaving or saying something mean, like that wasn't gonna help me. It wasn't probably gonna change them. So what did I do? I got creative and I got the lab coat and I started wearing the silly lab coat, and it resulted in me fundraising $1.3 million from mostly elderly white men in oil and gas, nonetheless, because Texas, that's where a lot of the money is. So, you know, my biggest piece of advice is that if don't walk into situations assuming bias, because the world is changing. But if you walk in and there are hurdles you have to overcome, being angry usually doesn't work, but being creative can definitely work.
Excellent, Brittany. That's fantastic. I would love to go offline and talk to you some more about this stuff because it's just, I just love it. I have so many stories to tell you regarding that. One of the things I wanted to also just tell the student body is that the chat is open for questions. So if there are any questions that you have for our panel regarding Drew, regarding work life, regarding entrepreneurship, or the sciences, please feel free to type up your questions on chat. We're monitoring it, and we would love to hear from you. You know, I wanted to go a little bit on a different you know, direction, and that is really addressing our Drew student body. As you guys are all in your homes or apartments, you know, as you're finishing up the semester, there's a lot of questions, right? There's a lot of questions about, you know, what do we do, right? Where we're going. And I think one of the most important things for the student body is really to embrace what you have right now. What you guys are living in an absolute fantastic time in your life. The advent of technology is just so amazing compared to, for example, when I went to Drew in the dark ages, and we had our first laptop computer given to us back in 1986. Now being able to interface with your professors online, being able to do submissions through emails, doing presentations through PowerPoint, etc. It's fabulous. So one of the things I encourage all of you, as you guys look, not just the seniors who are graduating and trying to find out next steps, but those freshmen, those sophomores, those juniors who are looking into registering for next semester and trying to understand what's going on, is engage your alum. Engage those folks who maybe haven't gone or not going through what you're going through right now as a student, but had similar experiences 10, 20, 30 years ago, and can give you some enlightenment as far as what they did, and maybe give you advice on how it will help you out through that journey. So we have a question from one of our students online, and it said, how did you find a PhD program that worked for you? And did you go directly into that program after undergraduate studies? So that's a great question. I'll give you my personal journey on that one. Like I said, Dr. Alan Roseanne was my advisor in chemistry. And to this day, he is still such a great mentor for me and a great friend. And I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was going to graduate Drew, honestly. I was starting my senior year with full of question marks. I had gone through this program, 3 years of chemistry, physics, calculus, and no idea. So I did the best thing I could do, was just reach out to my mentor, my advisor, and say, what should I do? And he said, you know, he said, look, if you don't know what you want to do, you can always continue to educate. And in the sciences is really interesting because sciences, especially in chemistry, is one of those few degrees that actually pay you to go to school. For those that may or may not know, but you know, a PhD program in chemistry will pay your tuition, will pay your health insurance, which in this day and age is very important, and they also give you a stipend. And so my advisor said, look, try it out, join the PhD program, and if you don't like it, in 2 years you can graduate with a master's degree, and now you have a one-up on other people who maybe just left with a bachelor's degree and decided to go to industry. And so that's what I did. Now, exactly where did I go and why did I choose that? It was family. So most of my family was from New Jersey, and they all migrated south to Miami, to Florida. They went to snowbird action. And so after 4 years at Drew, even though I was a Jersey boy, I was really by myself for those 4 years because my family had moved to Florida. And so in choosing a PhD program, I was choosing a school that was close to my house and in Florida, and so that's why I chose the University of Miami. I think it was really important because, you know, as a first gen in particular, and that's another great question, by the way, Vanessa, as a first generation, I would say you don't know what you don't know. And that's really tough. I couldn't go to my mom and dad. I couldn't go to my aunt and uncle, you know, to find out, hey, you know, what was your experience doing a PhD program in such and such, or going to college for that matter. And so this is why I highly encourage our student body to connect through the Drew Connect program. Talk to your advisors as well at Drew, because there's so many resources there for all of you, and getting not only advice, but experience, life experience as far as what we went through. I actually chose the University of Miami as well, by the way, because the University of Miami was one of my first two choices as an undergrad. And that was another thing that people didn't know. My two choices going to undergrad was University of Miami and Drew. And so I was ready, and I selected Drew to be close to home, and then all my family went to Florida. So I don't know if they were just running away from me or what, but I came back home. And so that was one of the reasons I did that.
Yeah.
Brittany,
I can definitely answer this too.
Go ahead.
Sure. So I didn't mention in my intro that I'm also first generation college student, let alone PhD. So I really, really appreciate and identify with not having internal resources on what the heck a doctorate program looks like or whatever. My senior year, I knew I loved DNA and genetics. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be like a geneticist MD or like a clinical or researcher. And I kept going to Dr. Knowles saying like, what about this career? What about that career? And he said, Britt, all of these sound great. All of them require a PhD in genetics. Just go do that. And like time will pass and you will then get more information and you'll be able to decipher exactly which one specifically you want to do. But in the meantime, just go get your doctorate in genetics. And I was like, okay, all right. So where did I apply? I literally just Googled like PhD genetic programs, and I made this Excel sheet and I like put the name of the school. I put the application cost, because usually the costs are like between $50 to $120 each. And I was on a budget. And so like how much the application, when's the application due? What, you know, tests do they require? Do they require a GRE? Did they require letters of recommendation? Like I literally just made this Excel sheet because I'm like a scientist who loves color-coded Excel sheets. So just made these columns and, you know, I put down some professors' names at these schools that I thought was kind of interesting. So what I would do is, you know, university pages will have like their genetics program and you can look at their professors. And so some things I did was I looked for diversity in the professors. Was there only 3 of them? You know, that seems like a really small department. Or was there 100 of these genetics professors? Were they all working on one thing? You know, certain schools are known for working on breast cancer. And so pretty much everyone there is breast cancer. So I tried to look for ones that had diversity in not only the humans themselves, but in the projects they were working on. I do want to say, I remember being super discouraged to the point of like crying, like, because I couldn't understand all their titles of their research. And I was like, how am I ever going to be a geneticist? I don't even know what the titles are. And my lovely mother, of whom knows nothing about what I'm doing, you know, she's like, I don't understand science, I don't understand college, I don't understand PhDs. She would remind me like, well, that's why you're gonna go, so you can learn about the titles. And so I just want to throw that out there, that if you're looking at graduate school websites and you're looking at titles of papers and they seem super confusing, don't be discouraged. I was confused too. It's okay. So essentially I narrowed it down to about 10 schools and applied for them. And I got interviews at about 6 of them, and I got accepted to only 2. And like I said, I went to the one that's considered one of the best in the world. The first human genome was sequenced in 3 labs. One of the labs was at my school. So, you know, we're really known for genetic research, and I don't know, by God's good grace, I got in there. I can talk a lot about the interview process and what were my goals around that and my strategy. But yeah, I guess I'll say one other piece of advice for if you're a first gen and you don't know who else to go to. I mean, I had Dr. Knowles, right? But another good resource is looking at the grad students currently at that school. There were you a few years ago. So, you know, you can look at Drew alum, but also just look at, you know, let's say you want to go to University of Michigan and there's a laboratory that's working on something that you're like, whoa, this is super fascinating, super cool. Sometimes the lab will have their own website, or sometimes right on that home page, you'll see the grad students that are in that lab. Send them a message on LinkedIn, or if their email is there, send them an email and just say, hey, I'm an undergrad. I'm really interested in your lab's work. I don't really, you know, use all the things you can. So pull on their heartstrings, tell them you're a first gen PhD candidate student, and say, I would really like some advice on like what grad school looks like. And I promise you 9 times out of 10, you're going to get someone replying saying like, of course, like, let's be friends. Like, let's jump on a call. Like, don't be nervous. Reach out. People want to help you more than you think.
Excellent. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. And, you know, one of the other things also that I think people need to realize, that just because you apply for graduate school, that your focus actually gets narrower. One of the things that I love to say to students that I meet up with is that my path to PhD was very unusual as well. I started off as an organic chemistry PhD candidate, and actually transitioned into inorganic chemistry and wound up actually with an advisor in analytical chemistry. So, you know, I went through all sorts of different, you know, professors and advisors. And one of the beautiful things about any PhD program is that you also have rotations. And so this is something that allows you to, within your first year, to spend time with different professors. So if you don't know exactly who, or maybe you have one person who you think looks good, you will have the opportunity to actually look at different other professors within those programs. And so I encourage you, as Brittany says, RISE is a great program. You got a lot of professionals who have gone through the PhD gauntlet, as I like to say, and obviously your staff, your faculty within your departments also. Reach out to them and they can share their experiences as well. So one of the things that I have also that I like to be able to kind of ask Leo in particular, because your journey is so fascinating, you know, starting off as a kind of a business major, and then dabbling a little bit into the sciences, and now being in another country altogether, looking at sustainable resources is about your dream job. In other words, you know, when you went into that first financing job, was that your dream job, or is it now your dream job, or is it a little bit of everything?
You know, I think if I were to put down what a dream job would be for me in terms of the DNA of it, it has something to do with making an impact. And being born in the former Soviet Union and being a first generation American, I didn't really know what that is in America. Both my grandparents were engineers. My grandmother designed airplanes. My grandfather designed solar electric power plants and the rotating mirrors. So I knew what that meant in the Soviet Union from stories of my family, but I figured in America, that just meant money. In America, if you make money, you make impact. So obviously Wall Street resonated. Once I actually got to Wall Street, I realized that the Delta Force, the special commandos of the trade floor were the derivatives guys, because they were looking at financial instruments that were complicated and helping clients solve more complicated problems. So I naturally gravitated there. But after a career of 11 years doing that, I realized there's not a ton of impact there. I'm just a disposable cog doing something that the pension plans do every single day. So when I started my own company here in Amsterdam, focusing on sustainability, I again wanted to make that point of impact. I wanted to offset carbon emissions for flights and help musicians who are touring be carbon neutral. And I wanted to partner with businesses who have business travel and also don't calculate the expense of their travel and expenses based on the impact that they actually make on the environment. So all these things were really important to me. But the deeper I get into sustainability and the more I realize how much greenwashing there is in the industry, I again realize that there's more and more to do to actually have genuine impact. So I think every job has been a dream job in some way, but I still yearn for something more where I could have tangible impact and recognition for actually making a difference instead of making someone look good on paper because they took some, sustainable initiatives, which to me now feels very peripheral and not enough. And I relocated to Amsterdam specifically to start this business because, in my opinion, this is the capital of sustainability. What the Dutch do in terms of water engineering and water conservation and research, what they do in terms of agriculture sciences and automation and AI in the food service sector is truly revolutionary. So for me to be here and be able to export those ideas around the world to my consulting clients, that to me has some semblance of impact. But I do believe there's further that I could reach to make that happen.
Excellent, Neil. That's fabulous. Honestly, what you're doing over there is amazing, and I'm hoping that the U.S. Can get on the bandwagon, so to speak, and really make a concerted effort to deal with sustainable resources and be able to make an impact on climate. We all need it across the world. With your journey, I agree with you. I think, as you reach every stage of your life, whether it is as a high school senior, graduating, going to college, or getting that degree from Drew, or getting that first job, all of them seem like, oh, this is the dream step. This is the dream step. And what you realize is that as you continue going and maturing and gaining experience, is that every step is a dream, right? And every step is a dream opportunity. The key is what you make of it, right? And how you make an impact. Not only obviously in your personal life, but also in the lives of others. I feel that right now with my company. We started as a startup 10 years ago on a technology that was unique, and actually a technology that I had used as a graduate student, which was really cool. And one of the things that I feel right now in my dream step, so to speak, is that we're helping pharmaceutical and biotech companies find solutions for cancer research. And that to me is very personal for a number of reasons, family, friends, and the like. But I don't see that as the end game. I see it as kind of the next step in my evolution as a professional. And so I really encourage our students out there to dream big. There is no dream too small or too big that you cannot achieve if you put your mind to it. And obviously, with an awesome Drew alumni body that you guys have available at your disposal, you can do anything. And so again, I don't like to beat the horse, but I'm going to do it again. Drew Connect is the best thing that's out there right now for you to participate and to engage your alumni because they're there, they're willing, and they want to help and engage. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Carol. Carol, is there any other questions that come up to mind?
Oh, Carol, you're still on mute.
There you go.
Thank you. Of course. I don't see any other questions that have come up, but I wanted to open this up to Mark Tomjanovich or Neil Connors if they have any questions or if any of our students have additional questions, to just hop off of mute and ask them.
I don't have questions, but I just want to thank everybody for their participation with this. I've done a few of these over the last few weeks, and it's just such a great way to get Drew's community together and kind of share experiences and really help our students out. So I appreciate your time. And Len, it's great seeing you. Love the beard.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to see you as well.
I didn't know you were in Amsterdam. Next time I'm there, I'll drop by and say hi.
That sounds awesome. And if you need any help on a virtual Wall Street semester lecture, I'm always down.
Be careful what you wish for. We may be doing the summer one virtually, in which case I will absolutely hit you up.
Sounds great.
But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Emilio.
Thank you, Mark. So I also wanted to just take a moment also to let everybody know that anyone who knows me knows how passionate I am about Drew University and everything around Drew University. And one of the things that I started very recently was to give back to the university in a more substantial way. And so Brittany, as a first generation student myself, one of the things that my wife and I actually did was set up an endowment for minority students in the sciences at Drew, and which I feel very passionate about, in part because Drew helped me so much in my career financially. And I know that there's students out there at Drew that also need that financial need as well as they progress through their career. And so we're almost there in the full endowment. We're still a couple bucks away, but we're working on it. But it's really awesome because I think it encompasses everything. Students who are willing to learn the sciences very close to me, obviously. And it's all sciences, it's not limited just to chemistry. And so I encourage people to, think of Drew as you guys further your careers as well, and make an impact on the university. So thank you once again, panel. Brittany, Leo, Carol, thank you so much for your input. Leo and Brittany, thank you for your experiences. I'm really excited to have met you both, and I'm definitely going to connect through Drew Connect with both of you, as I have tons of questions to ask. And to the student body, again, I encourage you all to reach out to us and connect either offline, through email and the like. And we look forward to having another session like this in the near future.
Yeah, my email is still the same as when I was there. So it's bbarreto, first initial last name, @drew.edu. So if anyone on the panel wants to ask me some questions, I'm happy to take them on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated for the invite and for the time.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Panelists, you were fantastic. Thank you so much. I will see you soon, Emilio. We have an alumni board meeting coming up in a week or so.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We do.
All right.
And by the way, just one quick thing. I love Drew so much that my daughter is actually a student at Drew. And so, I'm looking forward to graduating her in the next couple of years. So I extend my biggest warmth to all of you, professors, students, staff, as we go through this process over the next few months. We know it's challenging for every single one, not just for students, but for faculty, staff, alum. But we're in this together, and we will persevere. So I look forward to having an exciting fall at Drew.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.